Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, all my dear students of class 8th. Once again I welcome you all to the chemistry online class. I hope you all are well and healthy and staying back home. Please follow the COVID protocol and stay at home. Now I had done phloem in the last session. What is phloem? It is another complex conductive tissue apart from xylem, and it is made up of 4 types of cell, that is sieve tubes, companion cell, plasma, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. Now sieve tubes, they conduct the food, and companion cell also help in the conduction of the food material. The phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma, phloem parenchyma stores food for the phloem tissue, and the phloem fibers, they give mechanical strength to the plant. So what are the various functions? That is, they transport food prepared by the leaves to other parts of the plant, and the food is transported in both the direction, and that is upwards and downwards. And the phloem fibers give mechanical strength to the plant. Phloem parenchyma stores the food. Then I had told you about the importance of water for plants. What is the importance of water? That is, it transports substances in the solution form from one part to another, and it is used for making food by the process of photosynthesis. Then whatever excess water is there, it evaporates, and it provides suction pull that causes the ascent of sap, that is the movement of the sap in the upward direction for the transport of water and minerals to all the parts of the plant. Apart from this, it also provides a cooling effect. I had started with the minerals, that is, apart from water, minerals are also necessary for the growth and development of plants. And where are the plants getting these minerals from? They are getting from the soil. So on the basis of the quantity in which they are required by the plants are these nutrients are divided into 2 groups, or the minerals are divided into 2 groups, that is the micro and the macro nutrients. Macro means in large quantities and micro means in very small quantities. Is that clear? So these are required by the plant in very large and small quantities. And so the table that is given on page number 10, that is table 1.1, plant nutrients, their roles and related deficiency symptoms. In this, the 3 macronutrients are given, that is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and in the micronutrients, iron, zinc and manganese are given. So what are the major roles of these macro and micronutrients in the plants? So macronutrients, first one being nitrogen. It is an essential constituent of all proteins and chlorophyll. Is it clear? That is, it is very important for the formation of the proteins and chlorophyll, the green color pigment of the plant. And next one being phosphorus. What is the importance of phosphorus in plants, or phosphate in the plants? Discussed about nitrogen. And phosphorus, that is, it is a constituent of certain proteins and cell membrane in the plant cell. That one of the in the composition of the various proteins, you have phosphorus also, and it is essential for the plant cell membrane also. Then potassium is involved in the opening and closing of the stomata. Stomata are the pores through which gaseous exchange takes place in plant, and through which carbon dioxide enters the plant and oxygen leaves the plants. That is generally present in the surface of the leaves of the plants, also present in very few present in the leaves in the form of other pores called as lenticels. Stomata are present on the surface of the leaves. So potassium is involved in the opening and closing of these pores. Then what is the function of iron? Iron is a constituent of certain enzymes and proteins. What are enzymes? They are the biocatalyst, that is, they alter the rate of various biological reactions that are going on inside the plant. and they are constituent of certain proteins present in the plant. The constituent means they constitute, they make up, they are important for the formation of certain proteins in the plant. Then zinc, it controls the activity of certain enzyme and is a constituent of plant hormones. So again, zinc is important for the activity of certain enzymes in the plants and is a constituent of plant hormones. What are hormones? They are the chemical messengers. Is that clear? They are the chemical messengers and they regulate various activities, important activities of the plants. Then manganese, what is the major role? That is, it is also a constituent of certain major enzymes present in the plant cell. So the nitrogen, again I'll just revise once more, that is nitrogen is an essential constituent of all proteins and chlorophyll. Phosphorus is also a constituent of certain proteins and cell membrane. And potassium is involved in the opening and closing of stomata. Then iron is a constituent of certain enzymes and proteins, and zinc controls the activity of certain enzymes and is a constituent of plant hormones, and manganese is a constituent of certain enzymes. Is that clear? So micronutrients, you can see most of them are constituent of major enzymes and proteins. Is that clear? And similarly for macronutrients, they have certain essential functions to perform. Now if they are present in less amount than required by the plant, that is they are present or they are lacking in the plant, they are not present in the plant, then the plant presents some deficiency symptoms. Deficiency means lack of a particular thing, and symptom means the signs which are evident once that particular mineral or nutrients is lacking in the plant. So if there is a deficiency of phosphorus in the plant, then there is premature falling of leaves. Leaves fall before time, and purple and red spots are there on leaves, and such kind of appearance of the leaves are there when there is a deficiency of phosphorus. And there is delay in the germination of seeds. Germination means development of a seed into a seedling from which a new plant develops. That time also becomes more, that is becomes slower. So the leaves have such spots on them, and when there is a deficiency of potassium, there is curling of the leaf tips and yellowing of the leaves, and the leaves turn yellow, and you can see such type of leaves are there in that particular plant which is having a deficiency of potassium. And the overall plant growth is also poor. The plant doesn't seem to be very healthy. Is that clear? Now for nitrogen, if there is a deficiency of nitrogen, there is yellowing of the leaves that you can see, and wrinkling of the grains. Of course I have not shown this. The grains of the plants, that is the rice or wheat, they appear wrinkled. That shows deficiency of nitrogen in the plant. Is it clear? Then moving on to the micronutrients, that is if there is a deficiency of iron in the plants, then there is yellowing of leaves. These are the healthy leaves, and these are the leaves with iron deficiency, that is yellowing of leaves, and the stems also are weak of such plants. Now with plants having zinc deficiency, there is yellowing of the leaves, and the leaves are deformed. They are not in the proper shape that they should be. They appear to be unhealthy and diseased, and the plant overall growth of the plant is affected. Is that clear? The growth is stunted. It is less than the normal plants. Is that clear? Yellowing of the leaves, deformed leaves, that is they are not in the form in which they should be, or they are not in the shape in which they should be. And stunted growth means the growth is slow and the plant is smaller than the plants normal plants of its age. Is that clear? Now for manganese deficient plants, there is yellowing of leaves with grey spots. The leaves don't appear to be green, but overall appearance they give is yellow color, and they have certain spots. Okay, they have spots on them here and there. So these are the deficiency symptoms of plants having certain nutrient deficiencies. Now move on to the exercise on the same page. First question, that is tick the correct option. All plants need a transport system to transport water, food, minerals, or all of these. It is all of these. Then which of the following is our vascular conducting tissues? Xylem or phloem? Both of these or none of these? It is both of these. Which of the following is not a function of the xylem? It carries water and minerals upwards from the root to the leaves. It provides mechanical strength to plants. It transports food from the leaves to the different parts of the plants, or both A and B. It is not a function of xylem. So it transports food from the leaves to the different parts of the plant is not a function of the xylem. This is not a function of the xylem. Which of the following cells are mainly responsible for the conduction of food? Whether it is sieve tubes, phloem parenchyma, companion cells, or both A and B. It is sieve tubes along with the companion cells in phloem. Then the phloem transports water and food, food and minerals, water and minerals. It is food. Please try doing the match the following on your own. Then fill in the blanks, that is water transport substances in the solution form. Blank are necessary for the growth and development of plant. It is minerals. Blank is an essential constituent of all proteins and chlorophyll. Yes, it is nitrogen. Then potassium is involved in the opening and closing of stomata. Just told you. Then how this transport of water and minerals take place in the plant? Now we all know that plants are absorbing water from where? Both water and minerals are being absorbed from the soil through the roots of the plant, isn't it? You all know this. And what are the different adaptations that a root has in order to carry out this function effectively? It is the presence of root hair, that is fine outgrowths of the epidermal cells of the root. Is that clear? Now let's first see the cellular structure of the root. If we cut a small part of the root and see under the microscope, we see different type of cells that are present in the roots. So this is the root hair. Now the first layer that is there is the epidermis. Is that clear? This is the small part of the root that you have cut and observed under the microscope. This is the epidermis. And through the epidermis there are very fine outgrowths of the epidermal cells. Like for instance, this is a single cell of the epidermis. If this is the single cell, a fine outgrowth of this epidermal cell. This is the epidermal cell. This is the first layer, that is epidermis. And the fine outgrowth of this cell is known as the root hair. Is that clear? So what is the what is the structure of these cells? That they have an outer cell wall and an inner cell membrane. Now if you observe the very magnified view, you observe this under a power microscope, what do you see? This first layer of the roots, that is the epidermis, these are known as made up of epidermal cells, and these epidermal cells have an outer cell wall. You can see this outer cell wall and an inner cell membrane. Outer cell wall, this outer one, and the inner one is the cell membrane. What is the speciality of this cell wall? Cell wall is freely permeable. It is freely permeable, that is, it allows all the substances to pass through it. Any small, big, any substances can pass through it. But after the cell wall is a layer which is known as cell membrane. What is the characteristic property? That it is semi-permeable. It is semi-permeable, that means it will allow only certain substances to pass through. Exactly, it is semi-permeable, and it allows water molecule to pass through but not the other larger molecules. So from here they will be through the cell wall. What will happen? Water molecules and mineral molecules, everything will be there, and they will enter through the cell wall. But once they come in contact with the cell membrane, only water molecules are able to pass through it. Is that clear? So this is the speciality of the cell membrane, but not the other larger molecules can pass through it. They cannot pass through the cell membrane. And water molecule enter the cytoplasm through the cell membrane. Now you can see the whole structure. That is the first layer being the cell wall, to which water, minerals and all other substances pass through. Next layer is the cell membrane, and as soon as other molecules come in contact with there, they are not able to pass, they are stopped over there, and what could pass through this is only water molecules. Only water can enter, and this water, I'll write this in those words, water molecules, they come in the cytoplasm of the epidermal cell. This is the cytoplasm. Is that clear? And what are the features of the root hair then help in the absorption of water so effectively? How this function is performed? The first feature being they have a large surface area that allows more absorption of water. Is that clear? Just because of the presence of large number of these root hair, the overall surface area of the root increases. The area that will be provided for it is a single root, for instance, single root, a single part, you have the area of this part only. But if there are root hair also, you are going to include the root hair area also. That means the absorption surface will become more, the surface area will be more, and more absorption of water will take place. Apart from this, there are tiny pores that are present all over the membrane of root hair. Exactly, there are tiny pores that are present all over the membrane of the root hair, and water molecule enter these pores. Is it clear? Water molecules enter these pores. Then the cell sap is what? The fluid part of the root cell is more concentrated. Fluid means that will be water along with the minerals. Whatever other dissolved enzymes and waste or food particles are there present in the liquid part or fluid part is called as the cell sap. Now what is cell sap of root cells like? It is more concentrated. If something is more concentrated, means it is containing more solute. For example, if we have 1 liter water, and in this we have 5 tablespoons of sugar, and in another we have the same amount of water, that is 1 liter, and we have 15 spoons of sugar. So when you compare these two, which one will be more concentrated? The one which will be having more solute, that is more sugar. That means the one which is having 15 teaspoons of sugar. Is it clear? So it is more concentrated. Similarly, in the cell sap of the root cell, the concentration is more, the solute concentration is more than the surrounding soil water. So this is one of the speciality, just because the concentration of the solute is more, so it will absorb more water rather than the mineral particles. Is that clear? The cell wall of root hair is freely permeable and the cell membrane is semi-permeable. I have just told you that cell wall is freely permeable and the cell membrane is semi-permeable. So these are the adaptation or the features of root hair that help in the effective absorption of water by the root. Then how does this movement of water molecules take place in the plant? It takes place by 3 processes, that is diffusion, osmosis and active transport. So you can see this diagram, that is, this diffusion is the movement of molecules, whether it be the solid molecules, liquid or gas, from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration until an equilibrium is reached. Like one example I had given, the one containing 15 teaspoon of sugar in 1 liter is more concentrated than one which contains 5 teaspoons of sugar. So similarly, unless and until both the sides become equal, that is, both the sides becomes equal, 10 on both the sides suppose, then this transport will stop. So diffusion is the movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So you can see the concentration of solute particle is more over here, and here it is less, so the movement will always be here. So this is how water enters the root cell through the cell wall by diffusion. And they have to enter through the first step that is there is enter the cell wall or roots of the root cell, and the process that is involved is diffusion. And this process is a passive process. It does not require any energy. It does not require any energy, and this is a passive process. The next process which is involved in the transport is osmosis. I have just told you the process that is involved in the transport of water molecules through the cell wall of the root cell is diffusion. Then another process now for the water to keep on going inside is through the cell membrane. I have just told you it is semi-permeable. So there the process of osmosis is there. That is, osmosis is the movement of water molecule from the region of higher water concentration to the region of lower water concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. So the requirement is always a semi-permeable membrane. That is the movement of the water molecule from a region of higher concentration. In the soil, the number of water molecules will be more as compared to the number of water molecules that will be present inside the root cells. And it will take place through the cell membrane. So the concentration of water in soil is higher as compared to root cell. So I have already told you, so it will keep on going inside the root. Thus water enters the root cells from the soil through osmosis. Now the concentration of water and minerals is same in all the root cells. Now it is the same in all the root cells. So how will it go inside it? How will it move further inside the whole length of the plant, where it has to reach each and every part of the plant? I have just told you how the water enters through the root cells. It is through the process of diffusion and osmosis. Now the concentration, once it becomes equal in all the root cells, what happens now? Now water enters the root hair, its concentration increases as compared to the adjacent cortex cell. Now you have the different parts of the root, the section of the root that I had shown you. The first being the epidermis, next is the cortex, followed by the endodermis, and this is the vascular tissue which is containing the phloem and the xylem. Is it clear? So how the transport will take place, that is, once the water has been absorbed through the root, how will it move further to the whole length of the plant? So the water enters the root hair, its concentration increases as compared to the adjacent cortex cell. So all the root cells will be having the water, so their concentration will keep on increasing. So you can see this yellow arrow, that the movement of water molecule continues in this direction. Thus water moves from the root hair cell to the cells of the cortex, that is this part, from here into the cortex, and then the endodermis, and then pericycle, that is after the endodermis is the pericycle. This blue layer which you can see over here, this is the pericycle, and finally it reaches the xylem tissue through osmosis. To the xylem tissue, that is from a region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. So from the root hair cells into the epidermis, from the epidermis to the cortex, from the cortex to the endodermis, and from the endodermis into the pericycle, and finally to the xylem, at the process of osmosis. Now this is the magnified view of the leaves also, how the water will enter the leaves, the part that has been shown in your diagram, figure 1.7. that is the ground tissue and epidermis of the leaves, epidermis, and the lower epidermis and the upper epidermis and the ground tissue. This has been shown. This is the small part, a very thin slice of the leaves cut and see observed in the microscope. You have this kind of cellular structure of the leaves that can be observed. So we will continue this in the next lecture. Allah Hafiz.